go ahead and get us started. As I indicated, several of you have joined us. It looks like we have 13 that are on the webinar. Thank you for taking the time to come to the webinar, spend some time with that. What I will go through today is the application, how to find that through AET, as well as the application is locked this year from AET to the state degree. So I will show you how to, if your students have easy records or paper books, how to enter in end-of-year values and some pieces that feed the state degree. So I will go basically between AET and the application. I will also cover community service guidelines because that's always kind of a question that a lot of our teachers have, and I'll also talk a little bit about 5 activities above the chapter level because that always seems to be a question mark too. And then I'll show the Constitution, go through the state degree requirements. And hopefully that hits everybody's questions. But the first thing I'd like to do is point out that there is like a chat bubble, and it says chat, and there's a little bubble. If you have questions and you are muted yourself or you want to be muted, you can just hover over the chat bubble and click on it and then type something to me. I have been sending you guys email, or I've been sending you messages just asking if you could see my screen and let me know that. Told you when I was, so you can see the correspondence I've been sending to you, and I will send that to everyone. So if at any time you have questions and you don't want to stop me, jump there and type in your question. But like I said before, to get started, I would like to ask any of you if you have any specific questions you would like to make sure I identify in the webinar and address.
Yes, Mindy, this is Aaron Slack.
Hi, Aaron. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Sorry I missed your call earlier today.
You're good. I figured I'd catch you on this. I just have a question specific to my student, and it has to do with this ag and class.
Okay, so I'm going to mute people because I cannot hear Aaron's question. So, Aaron, you might have some chance of
kids to have like on in the background so that you can move back and forth. And I would walk in
Okay, there we go. I think now, Aaron, I still have you unmuted. Can you repeat your question, please? Aaron, are you there? Did I lose you? Oh, I did mute you. Sorry, Aaron. You should be good now. Aaron, can you hear me now? Well, I thought I unmuted you. All right, why don't you type your question, Aaron, and then that's kind of how we'll proceed. If you can type your questions, or Aaron, maybe you and I can stay on at the end. I'm not sure why. I thought I had unmuted you, but I'm not. It's still saying you're not talking. Okay. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just dig right in. First thing I want to do is make sure everybody knows and understands the state degree requirements. They can be found on the website. So if you go to IL Ag Ed and Ag Ed website, if you go there and you go to participate under About Illinois FFA, if you click on that, down at the very bottom is our Illinois Constitution. So that is where our Constitution is located. These are our state degree requirements. If you have any questions about the state degree requirements, be sure to let me know. But this is the long and short of it. This is the parameters that your student needs to fall within. They need to have received their chapter degree. They need to have been active in FFA for at least 2 years or 24 months at the time of receiving the state FFA degree. While in school, they have to completed the equivalence of 2 years or 360 hours of systemic school instruction in ag education at or above the 9th grade level, which includes supervised ag ed program or your supervised SAE. Students must have earned at least $1,500 or worked 750 hours in excess of the school class time in their SAE program. They also have to have productively invested $1,000. The following leadership skills that they need to demonstrate: they need to be able to perform 10 procedures in parliamentary law, give a 6-minute speech on a topic relating to agriculture or FFA, and serve as an officer, committee chair, or participating member of a chapter committee. They also need to have participated in planning or completion of the chapter program of activities, participated in at least 5 different FFA activities above the chapter level. This one I'm going to spend a little bit of time on right now, and by all means, if you have questions, type those in. But above the chapter level is essentially, it's any activity, again, obviously above the chapter level, but 5 different ones. So the FFA board, we've discussed this extensively, how we interpret that. So if it is Creed speaking, that's one activity above the chapter level, Creed speaking at the section level. Then if they advance to districts, that's still Creed speaking, so that's not a different activity. The same way with livestock judging. Now, if they did prepared the next year, that's 2 different activities above the chapter level. Proficiency awards, they competed in grain production at the section level. And then at the district level and state level, that's one activity above the chapter level because it's still the same activities. Same way with all the livestock invitational CDEs they attend. If they attend 27 of them or if they attend 2, that's one activity above the chapter level. It's different activities, and that's the way we're interpreting different. Now, my charge from the FFA board is to create a 1-page document or a document that states some of those examples so that I can clear that up for section chairs. And that is still in the works. I need to get that finished and send that to FFA board, and then we'll get that out to section chairs, and I'll post it on the listserv. But I can't stress it enough. It needs to be different activities. Can it be state convention? Absolutely. Can it be Farm Bureau Acquaintance Day? Absolutely. Can it be national convention? Yes. Build conference, 212, leadership camp. But if they've gone to national convention 3 times, that's one activity above the chapter level. If they've gone to state convention 4 times, that's one activity above the chapter level. So that is our interpretation, as the board has discussed it extensively, for 5 activities above the chapter level that are different. So that is number 8. It doesn't snag a lot of kids by any means. Anytime if we find out a kid only has 2 activities, we reach back out to the advisor and the student and say, tell us 3 other things you do above the chapter level that are different than what you already have. So it doesn't prevent kids from getting their state degree. 90% of the kids, 99.9% of the kids can produce additional activities. It seems to be a question of contention in some sections, and I'm trying to clear that up now. Have the member local chapters certified that they've held at least 12 meetings during the preceding year. That's pretty much on the advisor. Be in the upper 40% of the class in the scholarship and have an average of 3.5 on a 5 scale or 2.5 on a 4 scale. We know that they don't put their class rank on transcripts anymore, but for the most part that shouldn't be necessary as long as the GPA is still on the transcript. And the transcript is required at the section level, and when you send that on to state, it is required as well. And then they also have to participate in at least 25 hours of community service activities that are not part of the member's SAE. And then I will talk about community service hours now. I'm going to check back over for the chat bubble. Are there any questions that I can answer at this time about the constitutional requirements or any of that? If I've muted you, go ahead and type in your question. I'm checking the chat bubble. I don't see anything. So now I'm going to delve into community service really quick. FFA board has talked extensively about community service as well, and we decided to follow the same parameters that National FFA did. So I've pulled up this document. This document is also located on our website. If you go to where I was before, Participate, Illinois FFA, and if you go down to Awards, Programs, and Scholarships, you click on Degrees. The very top line is State and American Degree Community Service Guidelines. So those guidelines are here. The activity includes a tangible community involvement, so you actually did something to impact the community. The biggest thing that it catches people on community service is if your FFA chapter is doing a fundraising, like you're selling concessions at a basketball game, and the money goes back to FFA, that is not, and they work that and they put that, that's not community service. That's working for an organization that you belong to, and the money goes back to that organization. That, in turn, kind of benefits you as a member of that organization. Now, if your FFA chapter is doing a fundraising event where they're raising money and the money is going to Toys for Tots, or the money is going towards the local community food bank, that is community service. So when they put community service in their book or on their application, they need to put the organization that it was served. So when they say organization served, it's Toys for Tots. And then the description is, I worked for my FFA chapter to raise money for Toys for Tots. So the big thing that I think students get snagged on with community service is they say, well, my community service was to Monticello FFA chapter. We did this fundraiser. That's not, if Monticello FFA chapter is the benefactor of the community service or the event they worked at, that's not community service. That's working for an organization you belong to. So the same parameters work for church. If you work for your church and your church does a fundraiser and the money goes to send you on a mission trip, that is not community service. That is working for an organization you already belong to. Now, if you are working an event where your church feeds those in need, maybe they serve meals at their church, or maybe they do a fundraiser at their church that goes to creating backpacks for students. The money goes to creating community outreach for their community.
You're teaching Sunday school, and it benefits the church. You're a member of the church, then you can't count.
Right, and I think somebody else was talking in the background. Yes, if you're teaching Sunday school, if you're a member of that church, your church is benefiting, you're a member of it, you're benefiting, the way it loosely sees it. So teaching Sunday school would not be one, because that's not community service. That's serving an organization you belong to or the church that you belong to. But if you do, like I said, any kind of activity where your church is serving the community and you're a part of that, that is community service. You just have to be very conscientious about, I'm doing this work for this club. Is the club getting, I have one of my officers asked me today about some community service they had on there, and if you're part of the Sportsman's Club and you do a fundraiser for the Sportsman's Club, that's not community service. The fundraiser is going back to Sportsman's Club. You're benefiting from that. So that's the big snag. I think some people have gotten it in their mind that maybe National FFA or even Illinois FFA is anti-church, and by no means is that the case. It is just if you're a part of that organization and you're doing something for that church or for that church event and the church benefits, you're in turn benefiting. So that's the snag on community service that sometimes others hit. National FFA has done a nice job of creating some examples of what works and what doesn't work. So they have an acceptable and an unacceptable column. I would encourage you, if you have questions about it or think that it's questionable, read through these examples and kind of see where your students' community service may fall. But that is a little bit more in detail about community service. Again, those guidelines can be found on the Ag Ed website under Participate, about Illinois FFA, awards and programs, and then if you hit degrees, it's right here at the very top link. That is where that is located. Questions on community service? Let's see. Questions. All right. Heidi, what is your question? You want me to unmute you? Let me go back up here. I'm not having much luck unmuting, so let's see if that works. Heidi, can you speak now? You want to try that? Or you want to type your question? Now I want to unmute all participants.
Hey, Mindy, this is Heidi.
Okay, now I can hear you, Heidi.
Okay, so I got two questions on community service. First of all, our FFA chapter started a Warrior Food Bank last year, and Well, can DJ count those hours that he puts outside of school as community service? Because since we started as our chapter.
Well, it's the Warrior Food Bank is for the community, correct?
Yes, it's not just our FFA. It's for the community and kids in our school.
Absolutely.
They don't know what they're signing for, but
Good question. Are there other questions
Hold on.
while I have you unmuted? I'm going back to muting some of you. It's very easy to get the background noise in, and then other participants can't hear. It's weird for me to talk when it's unmuted because I can't hear other people talk to me, but I'm going to go back and unmute most of you, and you can mute yourself too. So I think you have a little more control when you mute yourself than you can unmute yourself, but I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody just to make sure that everyone can hear, and then I'm going to jump into AET and the actual application. And hopefully, if you have questions or you want to be unmuted, let's do exactly what Heidi did. She just typed in, I have a question, can I be unmuted? And then I will do that. So we're going to jump over to AET at this time. Okay. I thought I was. Oh, so I am logged in. And I think one of the most important things for everyone to understand is that the application, the state degree application, is locked very similar to the American degree application. So if your students have easy records or paper books, they have to take those end of the year values and place them into an AET record book, into the AET system. We call them record books still, but it's an enterprise, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So your student has, you as a teacher. Now, if you have questions that root back to how do I as a teacher set things up, be sure to ask those, but I'm going to kind of go under the assumption that you know how to set things up in AET and your classes are there and your students have the option to pull those classes. So this is what the student's going to do. They're going to go to their profile, and under profile, the first thing they're going to want to do is pull up the classes that they were in. Now, this is Mindy example. That's me, and I took agronomy, and Mr. Edgar was my teacher in 2018, 2019, and I also have class that I took in 2014, 2015. That 2014, 2015 class is my example class for our American degree students because you can just enter in a generic class like that, and in that generic class, then you just, that student that took it years ago, even though they weren't teaching using AET, they can go back in and plug in, they can backdate, plug in those end of the year values. It appears we have another question, so I will unmute participants and okay, what was your question, Heidi?
Mandy, I am sorry. I can talk to you about it later. I just wanted to know if on the community service hours, if you have a student, I'll call you later because I got too much back.
Too much back? Is there still too much background noise?
No, there we go.
Okay. I'm working on it.
No, that's no problem. So I have a kid that is a volunteer coach for the JFL junior high football team. Mm-hmm. Are you there?
Yes, yeah, I'm here.
Oh, sorry, I thought I'd lost you. Can he? Does he have to make an entry every single day for when he helps at practice? Or
no, I would do a cumulative.
Okay.
Entry of the number of hours that they served JFL.
Okay. All right. Good. Because I'm like, we're gonna have to go back and. Okay. All right. That answer. That's the last question I had. Thanks, Mindy.
Okay. Yeah. No problem.
All right. Thanks.
So back on profile. So when we're in our class, they just pick a class, and I can hit Add Class, and then it's going to give me the choices that I have, and I'm going to add this class that I took from Mr. Edgar in 2015, 2016. And so that's how the classes will appear on the student's profile. So once they have their classes that they've been in, signed in, then we go to manage and edit your personal profile and password. And I showed this yesterday with the American Degree webinar, so for those that are doing both, thank you for your patience with this. But you can see that I'm only 77% complete, and I have areas that I'm missing. So I can edit, and you can see the pieces that I have here, but this profile page feeds my, the cover page on the actual application. And so I'm thinking I'm getting most of my answers here. There we go. And I think that I'm going to type in, now if I type in 1989, I'm thinking they're going to tell me that that's not valid, but we'll see what it does. And my mailing address, I'm going to look to edit that. It looks like that's all there. My contact information is there. It looks like my parent guardian information might be the information that I might be missing. We'll just kind of plug some things in. Oops, took away Dad's name. There we go. Mother. And cook. And I'm sorry I cannot type and talk at the same time. It's a terrible, terrible affliction. But I'm going to put all that information and I'm going to save it. And now my thing says I have 92% completed. I wonder what I'm missing. National FFA requires first name, last name, address, city, and state. Okay. Illinois FFA requires gender, ethnicity, no answers, acceptable race. Okay. So that's telling me what I'm missing. And that is my profile. Okay. So that information they need to have included. Then they also need to have included, and again, this is just for students who have easy records or paper books that they're trying to complete the state degree application. They do need to go into AET and start this book just like I did with profile. Click on your classes, fill out your profile information, and then what they have to also carry over into this book is their community service. So I'm going to click on community service, and they're going to pick the date in which they did their community service. So that could be in February of 2018. I'm just picking any random date, and I worked the Greater Decatur Blood Drive, and I set up and worked the blood drive. And I'm going to say it was a total of 5 hours, and I can save that entry. There's my community service. So your students do need to take the community service that they would have in their easy records or their paper book and then put that into this book. If you are a teacher who your students are already in AET, these entries should already have been made, okay? And again, that will feed our state degree report that I'm going to pull up here in a little bit. The other thing that they need to do is time in FFA office, and they need to pick the oops. I need to go back and look at that really quick. Maybe I shouldn't have. Time in committees, time in competitive events. This is where they would put the things that they've attended. Here we go. So they can put that in October 21 for 2018, they attended the, and then we have a drop down here, or they attended the National FFA Convention. The type of activity that is a convention. The level is the national level. No description of awards. I don't know if you can put the number of hours. Not sure about our entry on that, but we click that, and then those putting in those FFA activities also feeds the application. So the pieces that they would need to take from Easy Record or paper books would be their community service and their FFA leadership activities, because that does feed the application. And then the next thing that they would need to do is their finances. And I have some examples of finances already entered. We can review my financial information. I put in a placement book, and what I did is I put in my total year, the amount I had for that whole year for designer landscape, and then I have the taxes withheld. Those are my finances for that placement SAE. So I have multiple years that I entered there. If I wanted to add new placement income, all I would do is click on, and I'll make a year, 2018. Oh, that's working for Elvidges, but if I wanted to do a new placement income, I would click new placement income, and then I'm going to pick my SAE, and I'm going to put my gross income and my tax. You're going to type those things in, and those are the number of hours I have, and then I save that information, and I have that in there. If I want to put in a new entrepreneur year, I would do the same thing, except you have to put in new entrepreneur income and new entrepreneur expenses. Now, what I've shown people is that you can do that when you're doing that. You can type in your vendor is your name, so it's like Bunselmeyer Farms, and then the type, this is my expense. It's going to be other, and then you type in your total expenses for that year, and then you write all expenses or all swine income or all swine expenses that year. So then that's what shows up in the memo, and you don't have to make every expense entry you had in your AEZ records or your paper books. You can just take that summary of all your expenses, and you can take that summary of all your income if you're an entrepreneur, and you can place it in there like that. Now, you can make multiple entries if you wish. One of the things we discussed yesterday is for like the students that are doing maybe an inventory for resale, they may want that separate. But the reason why I chose other is because it was a total of all expenses. But if you wanted to have something and you wanted to show that specifically, like it was an inventory for resale, or if it was a non-current expense, like an animal that you're purchasing and carrying over, you could log it that way as well. But if you're just wanting to take your year-end values and place them in there, you can do that like that. So I'm checking the chat bubble. It looks like we're good so far. So you have to do finances in there as well. So then when I look at this tells me these are all the entries I made for my work in my entrepreneur project, my grain crops with Elvidge Farms, and then my my designer landscape placement job I had. Now you can see that there's two checkboards. There's a checkboard for each of those. The checkboard with the green check mark is good. It means all the information's in there. But there's a red check mark here. So I'm going to click on that, and I need to put a description. If I said I worked for them, then I need to describe what I did for designer landscape. And maybe I designed 3 landscapes, whatever it is that you did for them. But you do need to put, and again, typing is ferocious, but it does check your spelling. So then I click on Save, and now my check clipboard is green. It means I put that entry in there. I should be fine. So I'm going to go to Reports and pull open a state degree app. But I will, I'm going to unmute everybody and give you the opportunity to ask any questions. So I've unmuted all of you. If you have questions now's the time to answer them. If you don't, or ask them, and I'll try to get those answered. But you can also type in the chat bubble. Otherwise, I will go to generating the state report or the state degree application, and we can look at and problem solve and troubleshoot from there. But I don't see any in the chat bubble. I don't hear anybody, so I'm going to mute you again. And you can unmute yourself, so don't hesitate to unmute yourself if you want to. So to get the state degree application, I click on Reports up here where I just did. Then I'm going to click on Degree Application Manager. And I want to look for Illinois State FFA degree. And I'm going to click on Add New. And there's my state degree. And I'm going to click on where it says Application. And now I have my state degree application opened up. As I mentioned on the profile, this is your profile. This is where you can type information in here. This is where you put your section, and I grew up in Section 19, and that was in District 4. And so my chapter roster should be fed there, but of course, because I'm not a real student, it's not going to pull up Lincolnwood High School. But I can put my address here. I can put, I don't even know what my address, well, back then it was Rural Route 1, and hopefully they don't accept that. But you type your information, anything that's missing on your profile page, you can type that information in. 62533. Can't believe I know my zip code still. Okay, so that information is there. You would also, I'm missing my date of birth and my year my membership gave you, all that type of stuff. I'm not going to give you my date of birth. I am going to keep my age a secret just one more day. So that is your cover page. It is fed from, if you remember correctly, back on this profile page. Then we're going to go to the basic setup page. And this is fed from information that you've placed in there. When they chose their SAE to start putting in those finances, this is where that gets, the application gets fed, whether it's a placement, entrepreneur, research, or foundational. Now, we do have our additional requirements page, so you can go here and say, yes, I know parliamentary law. Yes, I can give a 6-minute speech. Yes, I was involved in our chapter program activities. Have been a chapter officer or a committee chair. You want to be considered first star applicant? No, I do not. Total entrepreneurship SAE hours. This one is going to be more of a struggle this year because the American FFA degree and AET does not allow you to count entrepreneurship hours, unpaid entrepreneurship hours, to earn the American FFA degree, and they don't count them in the system because the philosophy is, and this is a philosophical shift that our record-keeping system, that we have to make in our record-keeping system is, the philosophy is, if you own 10 acres of land, every hour that you spend working on that 10 acres of land, the profit you get back is the profit when you sell the grain. So there is no such thing as an unpaid hour. Same way, if you raise livestock, all the time you put in with them and you sell them, then the money you get from that is money you make. There's no such thing as unpaid hours. Now, if your student is working for the family farm and gets 10 acres that they claim as their own, or that it is their own, that they own, they need to divide out the hours that they work for their farm. That's the hours that they put into their entrepreneurship. That's my bird clock. I have a bird clock. Long story for another day. But the hours that they put in for their 10 acres, those are hours that go into their entrepreneurship project. If they're still doing a lot of other hours for the family farm, then they're doing a placement on the family farm, so that those hours get credited. In Illinois, we have always kept this line open and allowed students to type in a number on those entrepreneurship SAE hours, and as I'm looking right now, it doesn't appear that we can do that. So I either need to check to see if they can unlock that for us, or if I have to tell you another place to put that. But I will check on unpaid entrepreneur hours. And again, I think it's a shift that we will make eventually, but at this time we do still allow unpaid hours for students to earn their state degree. And then you have to put your taxes, the years you filed taxes. That is the additional requirements page. So then when I click on my SAE placement and findings, what I put in there for designer landscape, the number of hours that I worked, the money that I made, that I already put in the book, that already is fed to this page. So there's nothing to do on this page, just other than just to check to make sure those entries all carried over the way you wanted them to. Now, if I did have unpaid hours for designer landscape, I could put those here. If a student worked for the family farm and had unpaid hours, they would still put themselves in placement, but they would leave themselves in. They would put them in placement, but they could leave them in unpaid hours, and those hours would count. Unpaid placement hours do count towards earning the American degree as well as the state degree. The next one is the next page. Again, this information is fed from what I entered in those finances, those end-of-the-year values, because all I did was say I had these 10 bushels, I raised crops, put my description in there. This description is fed from that little clipboard. Because I had the green check mark on my clipboard, when that green check mark was there, it fed this page. So if you come to this page and there's nothing in the description, go back to your finances page and look at that entry and make sure your clipboard has that green check mark. If it doesn't, if it's a red X, fix that. Add the description, add the scope and size, add the project name. The next one is our summary of our income and expenses. And again, this is all fed from the finances that I entered when I clicked on finances up here. I entered that in the AET record-keeping system, and it fed the application. All of these remaining pages are all fed from the pages in AET. Again, if you are using AET already, you know this, and this is pretty seamless. If you're using Easy Records, it is a transfer over of end-of-year values or inventory values that need to be placed in AET. Then there's your net worth page, and then here's your earned and invested. And I did meet the qualifications for the state FFA degree under option 1. I productively invested enough money, and I made enough money. But if you looked, if I was trying to get it with unpaid hours, I wouldn't have gotten it with unpaid hours. It's the money that I made. So that's that page. The activities. You saw that when I did that activity under the journal, the only one I put in was the National Convention, and it showed up here. So your students have to, if they're using AET or if they're using Easy Records or paper books, they have to put in, this is where they have to put in at least 5 different activities. Now they can put them all in because I think that adds to their value and the strength of their application, especially if they're trying to be STAR. You're going to want to add all of these in there in the journal where you put in FFA activities. But if they're wanting for the degree requirements, you have to have 5 different. Skills and competencies. You can still type this in. This is Illinois specific, so you can pick that and you type in your skills and competencies. You can pull that over from AET or copy it from over there, or you can pull it from Easy Records, but you do have to type that in. Community service is pulled over from what I already put in my journal entries. I showed you where we put community service. Again, you have to have the 25 hours, so as soon as it matches up to 25 hours, and I have 2 different activities, but I only have 8 hours in there, so I would need to go back and do some digging and find some other things that I did over the course of the years, all the years they were in FFA, to get that 25 hours of community service. Again, that's plugged in on that journal section of the book. Here's my checklist. I'm going to have a lot of things missing on my checklist because I don't have all my cover page stuff, and I'm not going to because I'm not a real student. I can't show that I've been an active member for the past 24 months, and I can't show that I have my chapter or my Green Hand degree. And then other things that might say I have errors. Yes, I already showed you that I don't have 25 hours of community service, so it says not met. My other error is it says I have invalid financial entries or warnings reported by AET. And I'm sure my records don't balance because I've been just tossing in numbers. I haven't typed in my skills and competencies, but if I click on that and it says not met and I click on it, it's going to take me to that page to help me to make sure that I go back and fix it. That is the nice thing on the checklist. It will take you back to, and my 5 activities above the chapter level, it's going to show me, I don't have those. Now you're like, well, let me go back and fix that. So if you click on review it in AET, it will take you back here and it will let you put in, and again, my years aren't consistent here, but it'll let you pick the year, pick the, it was an FFA, was it an officer activity or was it a competition activity, program of activities, whatever activity it was. I'm going to say it was a competition. And I'm going to say, and then you can add in that activity. So, but I'm going to go back to state degree really quick. And there's our checklist. And then this is where your record book, this is where the supporting record book goes. So let's say you're at degree reviews and you want to see the student's AET book. If they have AET, you can click on that and you can see, you can get the PDF of my book, which is going to be pathetic because I haven't added anything to it. But for a student who has Easy Records or paper book, they would have those there for them. But that's one of the things I really, really like about the app being fed by AET is you can just, it's one click away. We could almost reduce the paper that we have to bring, because if you as a teacher, if you had your teachers all at a computer and they could see record books that way, how easy that would make it. And that is what I will say the SAE committee is working towards, making our proficiency report, not app, but report, be a combination of an application and a record book, so that it's the same thing we're all looking at, but it's so easy to generate. And you could generate them and look at them from a computer, or you could generate them and print them and review them that way. But it gives us options, I would say. And then when you want to print the application, it's going to say your checklist is not met, but I still want to generate my PDF. When I generate the PDF, I can then click it open. It's going to say draft because I had not met, but we do still ask that you print the application and get signatures. We are working towards electronic signatures for 2021, but for right now we're still handwritten signatures, which it's not pulling up my PDF, but I did generate the PDF, and that's what you have to do to get your PDF to print off, to print that signature page. Now, I've had some questions about the signature page. Let's say you do get your PDF to open up, which either it's still syncing or it's just not happening. Either way, once you have that open and you print it and then you get the front page signed and then you have somebody review the app and they catch something and you go back into your book and you make a correction, you do not have to reprint that signature page once you already have that signed. The version numbers, I believe, are all at the bottom of the other, and we will accept them being different with the signature page, because I understand that there are going to be some last-minute changes or changes made after the section competition, and going back and getting all signatures again can be difficult. It's just based on people's availability. So that is the application, and I think we walked through everything with AET. I'm going to go back to chat bubble, let you type in questions, and I'm also going to... And so if you have questions that you want to ask at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions, either verbally or via the chat button. But that really does wrap up. Erin, I know, can you hear me? Are you able to talk?
Can you hear me?
I sure can. Thank you for
Okay.
waiting patiently and dealing with the background noise.
That's all good. So for my student, Brecken, the first 2 years of his ag career, he took ag classes here at Salt Fork.
Sure.
And then his third year, he took a dual credit ag course at Danville Area Community College.
Okay.
Does he have to show that in his record book that he took an ag class, or how should we go about that?
No, that just, does it show up on his transcript?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, then he should be fine.
Okay, he should be fine. Okay. I was just wondering the technicality of all that.
Okay, very good question.
Okay. Thank you.
And then I see someone asking, I have a question regarding balancing the accuracy checks for balance sheets. So that's coming from Nolan. Nolan, you're unmuted. Can you kind of expand on that, what you're asking?
Mindy, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Okay. So I have a student, so whenever her application is almost completed, however, whenever I go to look at her, I believe it's section on the checklist where it says accuracy check for the balance sheet, assets equal liabilities and equity plus growth. Where do I need to go to adjust or double check those numbers and everything in regards to her placement SAE?
Okay, so you're saying you're on the finances page or you're on the application?
I'm looking at the checklist on the application currently, but I'm assuming that means that something in her finances and her actual record book are incorrect.
Right. So when I look at finances for a placement kid, and what does it say again?
It is showing me an error message in that section where it says accuracy check for the balance sheet.
I'm going to look back at a checklist to see that I know it. Okay, so what they're saying here is if you, can you see the screen still where it says accuracy check for balance sheet?
Yes.
So what they're saying is whatever money they made, she made, back in her record book, she's saying I made $1,000 for designer landscape. In my checking account, I need to either show that I still have $1,000 or I need to show what I've spent.
Okay.
That has to match dollar for dollar. If that doesn't say met, then they're saying, where's that money at? So it can be personal expenses that they spent it on, or they reinvested it back in the project, or whatever they spent it on. But if you made $1,000 at work and you don't have any of that money left, where did it go? Now, obviously, some went out for taxes, and you record that. So you have to record that as expenses that they had.
Okay.
They could be personal expenses, like I said, but the whatever's at the end of the checking account, end of the year checking account, that balance needs to match dollar for dollar with what they say they made, unless they show how they spent it.
Okay. Okay. So somewhere along the lines, her income is not matching her expenses, essentially.
And does it give you a dollar amount of how much it's off?
No. I think it says like $18 somewhere.
Right.
And then it just says,
so I hate telling you this, but it's somewhere back in these financial entries. She's either saying she has more than what she earned, or she forgot to put something in that she spent.
Okay. Okay. So I will do some digging then. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions? I think I still have everybody unmuted. Are there any other questions? I think there's a question from Heidi. State degree student, does the student have to invest $1,000 if it is paid placement? That is, let me pull up the Constitution. Do I have that back up? Nope, where's my Constitution? The answer is yes, they have to productively invest $1,000 in their SAE over that time. So it could be.
So it could be like towards gas money or investment into their car to get to work.
And it doesn't have to show like quote unquote money spent. It's investment made, if that makes sense. Let's say like anything they're purchasing that helps them do the job that they're doing.
Okay. Could it be money that they invested into a savings account or into a CD? Well, let me see specific. Productively invested. Hello? Productively invested at least $1,000. So yes. So like one of the examples I use is like a student who, they have ownership of that value. So like if they made $3,000, another way to show productively invested is, let's say they made $3,000 and they still have $1,000 back in their checking account, then they've held on to it. But if they've spent all that, then they haven't productively invested it. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I got you.
So you can earn $10,000 and still not get your state degree if you spend your $10,000. And you can't show that either you still have it in your checking account or that you invested it in your project. So you don't have to spend money on gas or uniform but you have to show that you either still have it or part of it that it equals over $1,000, or you have to show where you invested it. Okay. All right. Thank you. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. Another thing, like an example I have given in the past, is if a student has been gifted, let's say they've been gifted they're an ag SAE, and they've been gifted a magic kit. I'm using magic kit as an example. Magic kits have a value. They're valued at anywhere from $100 to $300, and they were given that by County Ag Literacy Coordinator, FFA chapter, whoever the case may be. But it's the kit they use to do their ag education SAE. They can count the value of that kit in their record-keeping system. Now that's pretty loose, but it does allow them to count that if it's theirs and they have ownership. Now if they're just using it, they borrow it from their ag literacy coordinator, it doesn't count. But if if it's been gifted to them and they're using it as part of their SAE, they could use that as, you know, that's something that they own, and that would be, quote unquote, money towards productively invested. That's not a placement kid. That's an entrepreneur kid finding a way to put value in their SAE when they don't necessarily get paid for their SAE.
Okay, that works. Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to hover over the chat bubble again. Are there any other questions? I really want to thank you for your time. I hope that this is beneficial. I know yesterday's was, I think I should have done the American one. I should have just done a practice one on my own. I do think it gets better as we do them day after day, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have via email or call. But thank you for taking time today, because this hits a lot of questions, and the questions you ask can also help others. So if there are no other questions, I am going to go ahead and sign us off for the day, and I will put today's recording online so someone else can check it out and hear the questions that you asked. So thank you very much. I'm going to hang up on everyone now unless you have any other questions. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.